Welcome back to Adventure Freaks. I'm Ray. Most people move overseas chasing a better life, more freedom, lower costs, and a fresh start somewhere completely different. But what almost nobody prepares for is this. Some of the most popular expat destinations are actually dangerous countries, and they can quietly flip your life upside down. Not always through some dramatic event, but through the slow-moving reality of living somewhere with a genuinely high-risk profile. That's why today I'm sharing the 3 most dangerous countries for expats in 2026. Now, just to be clear, this isn't about fear, and it's not about labeling entire countries as unsafe, because there are expats living normal, even great lives in every place we're going to talk about. But what matters here is understanding where risk tends to concentrate and how that can change your experience depending on where you choose to live. And you'll want to stick around until the end, because I'm also sharing 2 of the safest countries in the world to live in right now. And you just might be surprised by both of them. Now let's dive in. Hi, can Ernest and I ask you a favor? If you find our content helpful, please hit that subscribe and like button. It truly helps us grow, and it makes Ernest happy. Our first country is one I haven't talked about much here at Adventure Freaks, and there's a reason for that. And that country is South Africa. Now, before we get into the risks, it's important to understand why people still move there in the first place. South Africa is one of the most visually striking countries in the world. Cape Town alone stops you in your tracks. Table Mountain, the Atlantic coastline, white sand beaches, and a food scene that rivals anywhere in Europe. Drive out and you're winding through the rolling vineyards and mountain backdrops as far as you can see. And further inland, wide open savannas, game reserves, lions, elephants, leopards. South Africa is extraordinary. But despite that, South Africa is on this list for one clear reason. It consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous countries in the world, and the data backs that up. South Africa has one of the highest murder rates globally, sitting at around 45 out of 100,000 people. Now, to put that in perspective, that's nearly 9 times higher than the United States. And according to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, South Africa ranks in the top 5 countries in the world for assault and robbery. And this isn't theoretical. The risks that show up in expat safety reporting and real-world incidents tend to fall into a few consistent categories: armed robbery, carjacking, and home invasion. In fact, a vehicle is stolen or hijacked in South Africa every 32 minutes on average. These are part of the documented safety reality that expats have to factor in to daily life. What makes South Africa stand out is not that every expat experiences these situations, but that the baseline level of exposure to serious crime risks is higher than what most people are used to in typical expat destinations. And for expats, that changes how you live. It affects where you can comfortably move, how you travel, what times you go out, and how much security becomes part of everyday decision-making. That's why you see a very specific pattern among long-term expats who do live there safely. They tend to structure their lives around controlled environments, secure housing, and highly intentional movements between locations. So South Africa isn't on this list because it's impossible to live in. It's on this list because compared to most popular expat destinations, the numbers place it in a completely different category. And for expats, that reality can shape how you live here daily. And the next country on this list is Mexico. And like South Africa, it's important to start with context, because Mexico is one of the most popular expat destinations in the world. Millions of foreigners live there, and it's easy to see why. The Pacific and Caribbean coastlines are stunning. Turquoise water, white sand beaches, and towns built for a slower pace of life, inland colonial mountain towns, ancient ruins, sitting in jungles, And then there's the food. Fresh, vibrant, and world-class, the lifestyle is one of the most attractive of any expat destination on the planet. So this is not a fringe destination. It is one of the largest expat hubs globally. But it is also on this list for a very specific reason. The data is hard to ignore. Mexico consistently ranks among the top countries in the world for homicide rates, recording roughly 24,000 murders last year. The U.S. State Department has issued do not travel advisories to 6 Mexican states, the same rating given to active conflict zones. And foreign nationals are increasingly appearing in kidnapping incident reports. To be clear, this is not something that defines the experience of most expats day to day. Many people live long-term in Mexico without any serious issues, especially in established expat communities. But reports from travel advisories and consular data show that expats have been victims of armed robberies and carjackings, particularly when traveling between regions or moving outside familiar or well-secured areas. In some cases, these incidents have occurred during highway travel or in situations where people unintentionally entered areas with high levels of criminal activity. Alongside that, Mexico has one of the highest road fatality rates in Latin America, a risk that quietly affects both locals and foreigners outside major urban centers every single day. So when expats are affected in Mexico, it tends to come down to 2 things: situational exposure during travel and infrastructure-related risks like road safety. What makes Mexico complicated is the contrast in experience. You can live in a very safe, established expat community and have a completely normal lifestyle. But the risk profile shifts fast the moment you move between regions or travel long distances outside those areas. And when you combine some of the highest homicide numbers in the world, active do not travel advisories, documented incidents involving foreigners, and elevated road risk, Mexico stands out as a place where situational awareness isn't optional, it's essential. Not because it's unsafe everywhere, but because the gaps between the safe zones and the dangerous ones are not always visible until you're already in them. If you've been thinking about moving abroad, but you're still stuck on where to go or even where to qualify, well, you're not alone. That uncertainty is exactly what holds most people back. That's why we created our Ideal Destination Finder, a simple 25-question assessment designed to cut through the noise. It looks at your lifestyle, budget, goals, and preferences and gives you your top 3 best fit countries to move to. No more guessing, no more endless research, just clear, personalized direction that saves you time, money, and a lot of frustration. And if you're that kind of person that wants more clarity, someone to talk things through with, I offer one-on-one consultations where we can map this out together based on your exact situation. If you're ready to move forward, head over to adventurefreaksss.com. You can scroll down a little and you'll see the ideal destination on the left. Just click it and get started. On the right, you can book a consultation with me. Pick a time that works for you. It's that simple. We'd love to help you finally get clear and take the next step. The next country on our list is Honduras. And before anything else, it's important to understand why some expats are still drawn here in the first place. Honduras has a raw, undeniable beauty. Caribbean coastline, tropical islands like Roatan, a scuba diving hotspot in Central America, ancient Mayan ruins, cloud forests, and again, some of the best diving in the world. For a certain type of expat, adventurous, budget-conscious, off the beaten path, it has real appeal. But it is on this list for specific practical reasons, and the data here is striking. Honduras has one of the highest homicide rates in the world, consistently ranking among the top 5 most violent countries globally, according to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. In certain regions, the murder rate exceeds 100 per 100,000 people, a number that is almost difficult to put into context. The U.S. State Department maintains a Level 3 Do Not Travel advisory for Honduras, citing violent crime, armed robbery, and murder as primary concerns for foreign nationals. One of the key issues is gang and cartel activity, unlike Mexico, where risk tends to concentrate in specific states or strong certain travel corridors. Honduras has a more widespread presence of organized criminal activity. MS-13 and Barrio 18 operate extensively throughout the country, and their influence extends into everyday life in ways that are not always viable to outsiders until they're already embedded in a situation. Another factor is infrastructure and institutional limitations. Law enforcement capacity is inconsistent, and in many regions, expats cannot rely on the same level of police response or legal recourse they would expect elsewhere. Healthcare outside Tegucigalpa or San Pedro Sula is extremely limited, meaning that in a serious emergency, access to proper care can be delayed significantly. So when expats are affected in Honduras, it tends to come down to a combination of high baseline violent crime exposure, limited institutional support, and the reality that help, whether medical or law enforcement, may not arrive quickly. Many expats who do live there safely tend to concentrate in Roatan, which operates somewhat separately from the mainland and has a more established foreign community. But even there, the broader risk profile of the country cannot be ignored entirely. And that is what places Honduras on this list, not because every experience ends badly, but because the baseline risk level, the data behind it, and the limited safety net available when things go wrong place it in a different category from almost every other expat destination in the world. Now, after looking at the 3 most dangerous countries for expats, let's switch things up completely and look at what ranks at the top of the list. These 2 countries sit at the very top when it comes to safety, stability, and quality of life for expats. And they are countries where people tend to move for one simple reason: peace of mind. And the first country is Portugal. Portugal is one of those countries that immediately feels different the moment you see it. From the historic streets of Lisbon and Porto, to the coastal cliffs of the Algarve, and the small seaside towns along the Atlantic, it has a mix of old world charm and ocean lifestyle that attracts expats from all over the world. It's one of the reasons Portugal has become such a major destination for retirees, remote workers, and long-term expats looking for a slower and more stable way of life. But beyond the beauty, what really stands out is how safe and easy day-to-day living feels here. Portugal consistently ranks as one of the safest countries in the world for expats. Crime levels are low by international standards, and most people describe it as a place where daily life feels calm, predictable, and low stress. You don't feel like you constantly have to think about your surroundings in the same way you might in other global cities. For many expats, that sense of ease is one of the biggest lifestyle upgrades. Another major factor is how straightforward it is to actually live here. Portugal offers a relatively accessible residency pathways compared to many European countries, especially for retirees and remote workers. Once you're in, the system is well organized and easy to navigate long term. On top of that, healthcare is a major strength. Portugal has a strong public healthcare system, along with widely available private options that many expats also use. Quality of care is high and access is reliable in most regions where expats choose to live. When you combine that with stable infrastructure, walkable cities, and a strong expat community, you get a country that feels very grounded and easy to settle into. And that's really what defines Portugal. It's not about extremes or excitement. It's about stability, safety, and a lifestyle that feels consistently easy to live in day after day. And that's why it consistently ranks as one of the best and safest countries in the world for expats and retirees. And our second pick for the safest country in the world to live in is Slovenia. And if you haven't really considered Slovenia before, it's one of those countries that tends to surprise people. It sits right in the heart of Europe, and it almost feels like a mix of everything people love about the region. Alpine mountains, clean lakes, green landscapes, and small, incredibly well-kept cities. Places like Ljubljana look straight out of a postcard, while spots like Lake Bled give you that iconic fairy tale scenery Slovenia is famous for. And within a short drive, you've got forests, mountains, and quiet countryside that still feel untouched compared to much of Europe. So visually, it's an easy place to live in. But what really makes Slovenia stand out is how it performs when you look at the quality of life and safety. Slovenia consistently ranks as one of the safest countries in Europe, and expats who live there often describe it as extremely calm and predictable day to day. Crime levels here are incredibly low, and it's the kind of place where daily life feels simple and stable. You don't have the same stress or constant awareness that you might feel in larger global cities. For most people, it's just an easy environment to live in. Another big advantage is how functional everything is. Infrastructure is reliable, roads are well maintained, and public systems generally work the way you expect them to, which is a major factor for long-term living. Healthcare is also strong with good access to public care and additional private options available. And while it's a smaller country, residency and long-term living options are relatively straightforward compared to many other parts of Europe. So when you put it all together, the safety, the stability, the natural beauty, and the ease of daily life, Slovenia stands out as one of those rare countries where everything just feels balanced. It's not loud, it's not chaotic, and it's not complicated. It's simply one of the most quietly stable and safe places you can live as an expat. So there you have it, the 3 most dangerous countries for expats and 2 safe ones. We covered South Africa, Mexico, and Honduras as the 3 countries where expats can face high levels of real-world risk depending on location, infrastructure, and circumstances. And we also looked at 2 of the safest and most stable places in the world to live abroad, Portugal and Slovenia, both offering a very different experience focused on safety, stability, and quality of life. Let us know in the comments what countries stood out for you. And if you found this video helpful, please hit that subscribe and like button. It truly helps support our channel. And if you need guidance or expertise on moving abroad, visit adventurefreaksss.com. And as always, thank you for viewing. I'm Ray with Adventure Freaks, showing you how to live your best life abroad.